I'm doing what might end up being a two-part, I'm not going to show you, which is basically something I wanted to do for a long time, putting my 2 cents worth into a little theory crafting, if you will. I have lots of points I want to cover, a few especially important ones, which are probably going to end up being completely wrong and that many people will disagree with. It's not like I know what Toby Fox has got planned in his brilliant mind for the rest of this game, but I have a few theories I'd like to put out there, and while I've seen people out there with similar theories, I've yet to see anyone come up with the exact one that I have in my head, so I thought we'd talk about that a little bit. So, we're going to start at the very beginning. So, to begin with, we're going to have a look at the intro and beginning sequence. If you're starting a new game, I already started a Let's Play, but this, don't worry, I'm not starting a whole new one. This is just the purpose of the video to get the footage I want. Because things like prophecy and that all-important yet seemingly inconsequential character creation sequence that we have here, I think are very important. Are you there? Now this voice is something I want to talk about. Whose voice is this? Who is trying to connect with us? Is it Gaster? Is it Chara? And I've heard some people posit that there are actually 2 voices speaking, 2 different voices, because we have different punctuation. Are we connected? Second voice could be Chara. An interesting theory that I've heard is that at the end of a genocide route, when Chara wants to sell you her soul, that she is in fact taking that soul to, as she says, move on from this pointless world and on to the next. Purpose of either simply taking over another world, because she seems to like destroying worlds and leaving them empty and devoid. That is a little bit messed up. Truly excellent. Or is she taking that soul for somebody else or for some other purpose? I really don't know. But from what we know of Gaster, which is not a lot, this method of speaking with the, all in capitals, and the interesting and very, very interesting, dark yet dark, they're all themes that relate to Gaster. And what's interesting is when you get digging deep into the files and look at the vessel, the character that you created at the very start, the sprites of the body are labelled as Gone Maker. Now, where have we heard of Goners before? Going back to Undertale, we know that there are Goners who seem to be individuals that are connected to Gaster. They seem to be people who have gone mad with some kind of knowledge that has left them unsettled and feeling like perhaps there's no purpose to it all, like Bonnie keep talking about how strange it would be to live in a world where they don't exist and the world goes on as normal without them. So is this person that we're creating another Goner, or do they become a Goner? An interesting point that I want to point out, and I'll put an image on screen quickly, so I'm going to flash up the list, I'm going to pause and read it, go ahead. But we have a message that appears hidden within the game code. I'm going to read it out to you, and these messages have been pieced together by people data mining, and you have this complete because there's probably going to be more added to it later. That comes from chapter 1, chapter 2. So, where am I? Hello? Anyone? Is anybody out there? Someone? Anyone? Can anyone hear me? It's dark. It's so dark here. Someone? Anyone? If you can hear me, say something, please. No one can hear me, can they? I guess not. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I can. It's so quiet here, and there's sometimes I swear I hear something like scratching. So, think of that what you will. I don't really know. My best theory is that perhaps it's the vessel, this one here that we are creating at the very beginning of the game, this Maker body. Perhaps it's Gaster or somebody trapped in the code. Perhaps it is December, the missing or perhaps dead sister of Noel. And I won't discuss that now, we'll save that later on in the video. I came across a comment in another theory video that I was watching, which was really very interesting. I tried to find a way to contact that person's account to ask specifically for permission if I could use that, but I couldn't find a way to contact them. So I'm just going to, when the time comes in the video, put that out there and put their name there and give them credit for that theory. But yeah, my apologies that I didn't ask you directly. I couldn't find a way to do that. But just quickly, they summarise that perhaps this is December that's stuck in that code. Well, not necessarily stuck in the code, but that is trapped somewhere, like in the dark world, and that the whole purpose of this game is going to be going and finding them. That perhaps when Astor was head of the police and was fired, that perhaps the reason he was fired is because he was unable to find December, who was missing, or perhaps she died and that was on his watch, so the blame was him and he got fired for it. I don't know, but it's a really interesting theory that could very well turn out to be true. Possibly not, but I just thought it was really interesting to read regardless. I'll include that eventually in the video. So basically, I'm going to put it out there. This is my personal theory as to what may or may not be going on here. So we all know how powerful the human soul is. We know from Undertale that human souls possess determination, which monster souls do as well, but they don't possess a lot of determination. And so, aside from a boss monster soul, which can persist for a short while after death, a monster soul pretty much dies immediately, and the monster will turn to dust when they die, or they'll, fall down. But with humans, they have a lot of determination, so much so that they can persist after death. We know this to be the case with Frisk and with Chara. Chara being an excellent case of somebody so determined that they actually died and came back to life using your determination and soul and whatnot. And then we have Frisk, who is so determined that they can either save all the monster kind or destroy it all, being the angel that either empties the underground out, killing everybody, or emptying everybody out by freeing them and letting them live happily on the surface once more. And we also know about banishing the angel's heaven, which is a lie from the prophecy in Deltarune. So, yeah, we know human souls are very determined. We know this. So, imagine this. If the soul of a human in a video game, who is, yes, a human, but essentially still ones and zeros, just code, still just a character in a video game, they're not real. No matter how real and wonderful they might feel to us players enjoying this game. So if a character like that can be so powerful and have so much determination, then imagine how even more powerful and more determined would the soul be of a real, living, breathing human being in the real world. Somebody who is actually alive, who actually exists, and exists in the real world, not in a game world. Now, we have some examples of characters who, for some reason or another, we don't know why, either the knight or somebody else, possibly Gaster, possibly the knight, possibly the knight is Gaster, maybe the knight is Chris, I really don't know. I guess it's good in mine, guys. But yeah, you know, we have somebody that's going around and telling people that they're in a game, and this knowledge is driving them crazy. And can you blame them? I mean, we have Jebel, who says, you know, that this is a numbers game, and that, you know, if you lose and your hit points drop to 0, then you die, and it's a simple game, you know. And, you know, says that everybody isn't free and that they're all living in a prison. You know, that's actually very true. And then we have Stanton, who talks about ascending to heaven. And I think with Stanton, he's talking about getting to the light in the world. Perhaps he's talking about, you know, our world, the real world. I'm not exactly sure. But either way, they've had contact with a strange someone who has given them knowledge that they really shouldn't have. I mean, could you imagine if our world was a world that wasn't actually real? Say the simulation theory is actually true, and that our world is actually a computer simulation, and we found that out tomorrow. In some ways, yeah, life would go on as normal. But in other ways, it would fundamentally change how we view our lives and how we view the world, because so much of what we thought we knew would be wrong, and what the world actually was would be very, very different. And I think a lot of people might very well not be able to handle that truth. I know I wouldn't. So yeah, and just quickly, as an interesting example, we have a couple of really great video games, in my opinion, that also address the fourth wall situation. I'm going to show a couple of images from an old Super Nintendo game called Secret Ribbon, which is great, by the way. I love it, and I really want to cover it on the channel, so I'm always going to stay tuned for that. But there's a character in the second world in the marketplace, and he's an old man, and if you talk to him multiple times, you will get the option to change him into one of 3 objects. I think a basket, a goat, and a chicken or something. And he basically spouts all this, you know, quote-unquote nonsense, and says, if what I say is not true, then may the gods above strike me down, you know. And it's really funny because you actually see, like, this with lightning, and he turns into whatever you picked. But here are a couple of screenshots. He basically says that we are merely sprites that dance at the beck and call of our button-pressing overlord. Now, who's he talking about? He's talking about the player. And it's completely true. The sprites, you know, well, your sprite are controlled by somebody in the real world with a controller, this button-pressing overlord. And then we have, you know, this other one, someone saying, you're very kind to that philosopher, he's kind of nutty after all. So, yeah, you know, he's literally talking about you, the player, and acknowledging your existence, and the people in the game are just like, he's crazy. And, you know, well, why wouldn't they be? Because they don't know that that's the case, and that's knowledge that they shouldn't know. So I just think that's a really interesting example of a game breaking that fourth wall, which I know, you know, Undertale and Deltarune are not the first games to do, but they were some of the first, in my experience, that done that. But just quickly, and this is also again a little off topic, but another example of a game really breaking the fourth wall in a really cool way is the game Star Ocean 3 to the End of Time. I don't know if any of you have played it, but, and spoiler here, if you haven't played the game, don't listen to this part, but basically the big twist with that game is that the world which you live in, the Eternal Sphere, which is the name for your universe, is a program, an AI program that was created by these beings called the 4D beings. And 4D beings live in the quote-unquote real universe, and your universe is literally just a video game. It's just a computer program, ones and zeros code. It's a game that they created for fun. But the characters become real themselves, and so they end up existing even after this world has been deleted, because, you know, you can't necessarily delete a consciousness. Like, you know, it's like that saying, I forget how it goes, about, you know, the world, you know, being real within your own mind. You know, like if you think it's real, then it is real. And so, you know, they became real, and their memories and their minds and their experiences, while it might have started off as a simple program created by somebody else for fun, they became real, which is just really, really cool. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever when I played that game. It just literally made me like totally spin out, like, wow, you know, there's actually these 4D beings that created this video game, and these characters within the video game are finding out they're actually just characters in the game, and I'm the person watching these characters finding this out on the screen in the real world. It was just really, really cool. So yeah, but anyway, getting back to Undertale. So my theory is that someone, I don't know who it is or exactly what the purposes are, probably Gaster, but then again we say that about every mysterious thing in these games, that's probably Gaster related, is trying to get a hold of a soul from the real world, and they're either just trying to get a hold of that soul, or they're trying to do it for scientific reasons, for an experiment gone wrong, or they're possibly doing it to get out of the confines of the game world, break free of that, and enter the real world. Because I really don't know how I'd react in that situation, finding out that my reality was actually not real and that I actually only exist in a video game. It would totally spin me out, as I'm sure it would any other logical human being. But I know one of the first things I would think about is, okay, if this isn't the real world, then what is the real world? What's that like? And is there any way to get there? Like, maybe it's just not possible. And maybe I'm way off track with the script here, but isn't it an interesting idea? And Gaster is certainly the one smart enough to put the pieces together. I'll talk about him in more detail later on in the game, video, but we do know a few things about Gaster. We know that he was the royal scientist in Undertale. We know that he fell into his creation and was scattered across time and space, that one of his followers is currently holding a piece of him, and that we shouldn't talk about somebody who is listening. We know that the posts on the Undertale Twitter account, whenever a new chapter is coming out, probably Gaster speaking to us. At least they certainly seem like him from the way he's speaking and what we know of his speech patterns to be like in entry number 17. Which, you know, has the darker yet darker line, which, come on, sounds a lot like the Darkbounders, doesn't it? You know, perhaps he created it. Perhaps he found out about it and found a way to get that. Perhaps part of him was scattered into that universe. Perhaps there's a Gaster in the Undertale universe and a Gaster in the Deltarune universe. Who knows? But I think the idea that he might be well aware of the fact that he is simply a character in a video game, and a character not only in a game, but who has been split across time and space in this game. So you have to be aware of the fact that there are multiple universes, multiple realities, and that there is a real world, and that where he exists is essentially code, and it's not that real world. So wouldn't the ultimate way of freeing the monsters be not releasing them from the underground and going into the surface, but going into the real world? I mean, I could only imagine that, no matter how cool this world they might be, is that it's essentially just a shadow of what real life would offer. So, yeah, I mean, and if nothing else, surely scientifically he would want to know, you know, about that as well, just to be able to find out, you know, for scientific reasons alone, what the real world is actually like, and just how powerful the beings in it are and what they're capable of. So, you know, I think it's certainly an interesting theory. I'm probably completely wrong, and if I am, that's fine. I would actually be love to find out that I'm wrong, because, yeah, it would take away a lot of the fun. You know, part of the whole fun of these games, I think, is the fact that we only have a small portion of it available to us right now, and it's potentially going to take many, many years before the whole game is available. And so, it's fun speculating because we don't know exactly what's going to happen yet. So, of course, we're going to guess at it, we're going to speculate on it. When it's actually all out, we'll know all what, happens. Of course, there'll be some mysteries left, conveniently unanswered. But yeah, we'll know how the story plays out and we won't have to guess. So part of that fun will be gone. So I think that's part of the whole fun of it right now. Just, theory crafting and trying to suss out exactly, what may or may not be going on. But yeah, this is all just theory, so who knows. But that in a nutshell is my theory. So I'd be very interested to find out from you all what you think. I'm sure I'm way off. I'm sure there's a lot of things I've missed and a lot of things I've got wrong. So yeah, feel free to let me know what you all think. But I think regardless, this is all going to be very, very interesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm sure it'll get darker yet darker, and I can't wait for it personally.